What's up, y'all? This is a deck I've been working on that I guess I'm going to call Manta Shift. And the idea here is that you're playing an infinite combo that wins you the game, that requires as few of slots as possible, and on screen I have the minimum package, in my opinion, that you would play in order to achieve this. So 4 survival, and then these are the 5 creatures, or creatures with equivalent effects that you would need to play in order to accomplish this. I'll go through them in order. Rhea Dawnbringer is a creature that will reanimate something from your graveyard on upkeep. One of the namesake cards, Wormfang Manta. This, when it enters, you skip your next turn, but when it leaves, you take an extra turn after this one. Carrion Feeder is here to be a sack outlet, although there are some infinite sack loops that will make this arbitrarily large that we'll go over, and for that reason I think it's the optimal one, but you could, if there was a reason for like a hybrid build or something, you could play any sack outlet to accomplish that part of the combo. Karmic Guide is integral. There may be another creature in the Premodern format that is able to accomplish the same thing. I'm not aware of it if there is. Also, Echo can be handy for naturally killing itself sometimes. And the other namesake card is Volrath's Shapeshifter. Importantly, if the top card of your graveyard is a creature, it has its text box. It also keeps the pay 2 and discard a card ability, which can be handy, especially in situations where you started off with a survival and it got removed in the middle, or things like that. So the basic way, the easiest way to accomplish the combo here is to survival until you have these cards in your yard in this order, from top being Karmic Guide, bottom being Rhea. Although there is some play that, if you play this, will become more evident as you go along. This is just the easiest way in my head to remember to keep them. It is, in my opinion, the most flexible if you get disrupted. Then you would end up by casting your Shifter. It enters as a guide, seeing it as the top card, and then you have a couple of options, but you can always bring back the actual Karmic Guide first. And then from there, if you believe you have another turn to spare where you can pass the turn, especially if you're not playing against a white deck or a combo deck that's going to win on the subsequent turn, then you can bring back Rhea. And what you would do on your subsequent turn, these both have echo triggers on the stack, and this needs to announce a target before that. So actually before your next turn, since Shifter is now seeing Carrion Feeder, so it is a Carrion Feeder, you want to sack Shifter. You can, if you, in a different board state, you could also sack the Karmic Guide. Don't worry about that for now. So going into your next turn, you have to announce the target for Rhea. We'll announce it as Volrath's here, but we're going to let the Echo trigger be on top to resolve first. So this sacks, and then the Rhea trigger brings back Shifter now as a Karmic Guide. You'll target the real Karmic Guide, bring that back with this real Karmic Guide trigger. You'll reanimate the Carrion Feeder. Now, Shifter sees Manta. It never had to deal with the ETB, and we have a sack outlet. So what you can do here is sacrifice it. Now you have an extra turn. And from here, the world's kind of your oyster if you're not disrupted. Only thing to be aware of is that you don't want to get sloppy and, for example, in the middle here, leave all of these creatures on the battlefield and have this enter, because this is not a May. Importantly, the Rhea trigger is not a May. You have to do it. So ideally, you don't end up with a Shifter entering as a Manta or having to reanimate the actual Manta. It could happen because of disruption, so things to be aware of. But yeah, as long as you remember to sack your guide, this can enter, targets this, sack it in response, blah blah blah. From there, it doesn't super matter because you're able to get infinite turns and beat with Rhea every turn, and barring disruption, you can also get a progressively larger Carrion Feeder in the middle. This is the most straightforward way to do this, and this assumes you only have access to one creature in hand. Now, like you would be survivaling all of these into your yard, ending with a Shifter in hand. If you have multiple creatures, you get more options, including ways to be able to do things more quickly. Because what you could do here if this is how we're starting off, you're casting a shifter as a Karma Guide, targeting the real Karma Guide. This trigger will reanimate the Carrion Feeder. Shifter is now seeing Manta. You can sack it, and then you have an extra turn in the bank. You will sack this. There's no reason not to sack this. You can let it die to Echo, but it's another free counter to start, which you should do as much as possible because you're getting more counters if you end up disrupted in the middle. Regardless, so you'd sack this. Now, we have an extra turn in the bank, and however many counters on Feeder. We're going to that next turn now. On your subsequent turn, you cast a shifter. It enters as a guide. You use that trigger to target the other shifter, which also enters as a guide. You'll target the real guide with this trigger. You'll sacrifice this in response. This will go off. Its trigger is now on the stack, targeting shifter. You'll sacrifice Karma Guide in response. Excuse me. And you'll do that until this is arbitrarily large. This is a loop. For not for turns, but for getting the Carrion Feeder up to an arbitrarily large number. And then what you can do, for example, if there's no other creatures in your yard to reanimate, then what you can do at the end is have the real Karmic Guide coming back. It has to target Manta. You can, in the middle here, in response rather, sacrifice a shifter. Extra turn is in the bank. This comes in, no extra turn because you're skipping the next one. You're at net neutral right now. You can sacrifice Manta. You have one extra turn in the bank. This is also a 6/1 flyer, which might be good enough if this is a long game where somebody's at 6 or less life. If that's not the case, you can also sacrifice this because now it's seeing Manta. You will have 2 extra turns in the bank now. Of note, this stops the loop though, barring any unique cards you may choose to play in your own builds. This is useful to know because you'll have 2 extra turns with an arbitrarily large Carrion Feeder. You're also going to be drawing more cards. My build plays 4 Plow and some other disruptive cards, so it does give you some more play in the matches where your Rhea may get exiled. Some other cards of note, since you do get to play more good stuff cards, like I said, we have Plow. I really like the cantrip creatures for this. You want a high creature density, because if you're playing on a low resource game, you want the most play possible. This is also really handy for faster creature decks, so it'd be good for Sly, good for goblins. Mesmeric Fiend is very good against blue and or white decks, just to have the option to pluck their most important card. It also theoretically can let you do a cool thing where if you have a Fiend in your yard, you cast a shifter as a Fiend, you steal that card. Now, if the shifter leaves as anything else, they never get that card back from exile. That's a very niche thing, but you'll get to feel very smart if you ever get to do it. Some other value stuff in here. I chose Withered Wretch as the try to fix your graveyard order sort of card. HFEB plays, I think, Psychotog for the same reason. I just felt like this gave you more play against opposing graveyard decks, and yeah, that's why I chose this over that, but it's probably not a huge difference if you prefer to play one over the other. Additionally, this does not play a Squee right now. It's possible I will in the future for longer matches. I'm choosing to play Genesis to accomplish a similar thing. What this does differently is that Squee doesn't really do anything for reordering your graveyard. In longer games, what can happen is you can have all the creatures that you want are in your yard, but they're in like some ridiculous order that you didn't want them to be just because of how things played out. Genesis allows you to fix that, because as long as you can get them either in your hand or in the yard in the position you want, you can do the thing. It's also, in long games, just another 4/4 that you might be able to smack them to death with. Another card to keep aware of is when your Gemstone Mine dies, you need to make sure that it's not going to jack up your combo, or if it does, then you're going to have to do something to get it out of the way. That said, this is color hungry enough and is not playing diamonds in my version because I wanted max good cards, that I feel that you can't avoid playing this, but it is something you need to keep track of. Another, I guess, tertiary win con, but also does stuff with shifter card, is Morphling. Importantly, this can give you Shroud, so if this is in your yard, you get to do all of the things with your shifter. Now, if you're close to your combo but not quite there, something you can do situationally is give it the +1, -1, and then say, I was able to Karmic Guide or Withered Wretch this out of the way. It will become a Manta, but it'll have the -1 toughness still, so it'll die for an extra turn. So there are things there to keep in mind that give you some more play than you otherwise would have. Another that my build's also playing 4 Sylvan Library. I may eventually go down to 3. For that reason, that and just its generic utility in this build, I have 2 Gaia's Blessing currently. I've had 3 hit points. This is all kind of in flux, but being able to get your cards back into your library is perfectly fine. It is better than them being in the wrong position and inaccessible for your combo. Can also be useful in really long games for like putting plows back in. If you're against like a mid-range deck, that can be viable. But it also is just a shuffle for your libraries. The way I have the mana base set up, there's no real room for fetches because you don't really want a plains, and the colors don't line up for anything else. So I like the deck a lot. I don't think it's super hot or anything, but I do think you get to do some cool interactions that'll make you feel really smart and be really fun to play out. And if you have suggestions or ideas, please let me know. Thank you.